Good morning. We're back in action. We're going to spend a few minutes with Senator Ruth Hardy. She started a lot of the conversations of what is in S-124, and the S-124 spent some time over natural resources. We have just gone through a reading, as what you might have seen, our first act of business today with Deputy Chief Counsel Michael O'Grady, and we are looking to get a nod from our committees on maybe a straw poll vote. We just wanted to make sure that Senator Ruth Hardy, again, who was responsible for a lot of this language, is happy with the changes of what went on in her other committee. So welcome, Senator Hardy. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you, Mr. Chair, and everyone else in the committee. As you said, I'm Senator Ruth Hardy from the Addison District, and S-124 got started. I think the conversation got started with S-100, which was a bill that I introduced to address the situation with the complaint, I guess, or to the petition, that's the word I was looking for, to the EPA. And I know you guys have gotten testimony on this, so I won't replay all of that. But then you all took up the work with S-124, and then it came to the Natural Resources Committee. And I know that you went over with Mr. O'Grady the changes, the comparison between the bill as it left this committee and what we did. Largely the changes were either clarifying with some definitional changes, or they were changes that the EPA suggested, because just last week, the Agency of Natural Resources, as you probably heard, got a letter from the EPA responding to a letter that ANR had sent them with the text. They sent them actually S-100, the bill language itself, and asked the EPA for their recommendations and feedback on the language in S-100. So the EPA wrote back and said, here are some changes we'd like you to make. And so their legal counsel worked with them. So a lot of the changes from your committee to our committee were requested or required by the EPA. I would say the one substantive change that we made was going with the waters of the state versus waters of the United States. I mean, we largely did that so that for two reasons. One, because that is the definition that is used for all other water quality programs in the state. So farmers who have to comply with the required agricultural practices and other ag water requirements, that's the definition that they use under that. So keeping it the same for this, so there wouldn't be confusion, does that pond or stream or whatever, do I have to worry about that for the CAFO permit? And the answer would be yes, because it's the same. So for clarity's sake, we thought that was a better definition. Also, because the definition at the federal level has changed so many times over the last few years. I think Michael O'Grady said it's changed 4 times in the last 4 years and is expected to change again. So that also created a lot of confusion. So we thought it was clearer to go with waters of the state. We did also make some changes to the part of the bill that is about the task force or the stakeholder group. And it's largely the same kind of language. We did add the water quality advocates and experts wanted to be involved in the stakeholder process. So we added them on and then added some references at their request to the Clean Water Act. I think those references were all implied before, but we made them more explicit. And we did talk with Michael Grady and also both secretaries of Ag and ANR about maintaining the ability to have those groups meet separately and then come together, so that there was a sense of, sort of, for lack of a better word, safe space where they could each talk amongst themselves and then come together. So nobody felt, neither group felt awkward having the other group in the room. I think that is totally feasible with the language that we have in there. And then I think that is basically most of what we did. I mean, I think Michael probably walked through the details of the language. So, and we did get a 4-0-1 vote. Senator Williams was out for medical reasons, but I think he would have voted for it too. It ended up as it ended, it was not controversial. It was bipartisan. So I'm happy with where we landed.
So Senator, you and I have been spending a lot of time talking about this whole subject right from the start of S-100 to
Yeah.
S-124. And I think it was thought of that S-124 was a bill that was just trying to circumvent the Natural Resources Committee, which it totally wasn't. In our discussions within this committee was that our work was very incomplete by not having this language in the ag part of our bill. And so we had purposely the least restrictive language that the EPA had requested to out of the what did you call the disagreement?
The petition.
The petition. And so the least touch that we could do to satisfy that, knowing full well that a lot of this was still going to be up for discussion on after this bill left our committee or left the State House and all of that. So, and I think we've accomplished that. As far as the two changes that you've noted, the one being the water, the naming of the waters of the state or the waters of the United States. At the end of the day, totally agree with you that the waters of the United States is probably going to change again. But I think we looked at that as a compromise to get the other stakeholders to support us. And then also on the stakeholders group, again, knowing full well that this bill is going to be a landing page later on, get the stakeholders group involved right now versus later, because I think that they really thought they're going to be involved. But we're tickled that this bill has come out of Natural Resources in the way that it has. I think the intent of the bill is exactly where we wanted it to be, which was to help complete our work. The farmers are going to do exactly what this bill had said, so we might as well have supporting language to have them do that. So appreciate your hard work, appreciate the conversations, appreciate the work together on this, and
yeah.
I think it worked out fairly well for both committees, I believe.
Yeah, I think so too. And I appreciate the collaboration with the committees. Yeah, that hasn't always been the case.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's nice.
In these two committees, it
yeah.
hasn't been.
Yeah.
Hopefully we've turned the corner on some of that, and we can just start trying to figure out how we can work closely.
Yeah.
So.
And we did hear from both, a bunch of farm groups and farmers themselves, and also water quality experts and advocates themselves, and obviously both agencies were sitting in the room the whole time. So I think we landed in a good spot. The bill, I hope, I don't know if you know, Mr. Chair, the Rules Committee, did they give it the green light today?
So what's gonna happen? Go ahead.
Well, I don't mean to jump the foot.
No, go ahead. I didn't catch you till later, so.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the Senate Natural Resources Committee. I think if I can characterize it, much of what is in the amendment is just bare changes. Some of it involves definition and some of it nudges things a little bit one way more than another. The fact is, if we don't do something, we risk de-delegation of authority, and we'll have to take orders from Boston, Massachusetts at some point if we don't. So I think this is a middle ground and a compromise that the EPA will bless and approve, pending some more changes perhaps down the road at the federal level. So that said, again, thank you to the committee. I think you guys did great work. I'm guessing that we'll have a pretty positive vote here. Procedurally, the Rules Committee did meet earlier today. It's in Senate Finance now, so you'll get second look at it.
Yeah.
And I think what's going to happen, I don't know how many days you'll be taking testimony on it. My guess is it doesn't rise to the top of this have to be done
Now we
today.
know things.
Yeah. But at some point, it will come out of there. And then I don't think it's going to go to probes. The Rules Committee felt strongly that in order to meet crossover deadline, all we have to do here is to take the amended version and put it on another miscellaneous ag bill.
Oh,
which we're holding back. So we're holding back on miscellaneous.
oh, so you're gonna attach it to another bill? Okay, cause I've, whatever works is fine with me. Cause I've gotten lots of mixed stories about what is required and whether or not it may cross over and what rules apply to it.
Some of what is going on, we're not driving that ship.
Okay,
So
okay.
I think it's as you just said correctly, Senator. If we can get the language out and get it to be where we want and see our good work not go to waste, I can be happy with that. And, but
Okay,
we're not driving some of the ship as far as how it proceeds.
I see.
My
So,
guess is it won't be on the floor till next week.
okay, and it might be attached to another bill.
Yeah, I think in order to move forward, that's the only vehicle we have left.
Okay, well, whatever I can do to be helpful, please let me know.
Yeah.
In finance, the only reason it's going to finance is because there's a mention of some permit fees.
Yeah,
Saying that you don't have, farmers don't have to pay 2 permit fees, just 1.
Yeah.
I'm guessing we will just hear from Mike O'Grady and then vote it out. I'll ask the chair to do that pretty quickly. We have big,
As you know how things work, Senator, the quickest time that we can get that back here, we would appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. And we want
Yeah, promptly,
yes,
promptly.
promptly.
No,
Oh, did you
was
hear
that,
about the split infinitive situation?
was that here?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, the promptly,
Yeah,
shall promptly or promptly shall,
Yeah.
yeah, that was me.
I thought we saw some fingerprints on that, yeah.
Yeah, we will get it back to you promptly. I'll ask the chair of finance to do it maybe tomorrow, if she will permit. Because we have the big education stuff coming down the pike, we don't want this to get stuck behind it. So, yeah, okay, fun.
Yeah,
Bill has
and
been
you know how
covered.
things go and how it's gonna get reported out and all of that stuff, and I don't know, where, how, what, and where, but maybe we might recruit you, on some language stuff. On reporting, sometimes we do some of that stuff, right? So,
Yeah, we could
So,
maybe do a joint
yeah,
report.
yeah.
Senator Hardy and I did talk over the weekend. This, by the way, is right now, a section by section.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's rather lengthy. It'll
Yeah.
be at least 20-25 minutes for me reporting this part. Then the amendment. But rather than just repeat 98% of what's here,
Yeah,
you could probably just talk about the changes that were made in Senate Natural. And then get our agreement on your amendment and then put it back. What I'm saying is this bill could turn easily into a 100-page bill by the
Yeah.
time it's on the floor, but that's the way things.
and are you in your report going to talk about the sort of backstory of the petition and all the EPA?
Well, we didn't use that word, although that's exactly what happened. This is
Yeah.
just the overview and the setup of it. I mean, I can mention that it was CLF that petitioned the EPA saying, you don't think you're doing a good enough job up there. And that's what triggered
Yeah,
both S100 and then 124.
I think it's sort of helpful to have that because otherwise it seems like it's coming out of the blue.
Yeah.
And otherwise, once you tell everybody, oh, we're doing this because we're being required. People are like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think you should.
And I don't know what kind of backstory that needs to be had, but I think it could be a backstory for all of us to talk about cooperation amongst committees.
Yeah.
As far as to, because I know that when we first passed S124, I had some irate unnamed folks that were like, you're just trying to override Senate Natural. No, we're not. Here's where we're at. This is exactly what we're trying to do we're trying to be complete with our bill because our bill isn't complete without having some of this language in there. And so I just think, Senator, you had said it a minute ago, the cooperation that we have between these two committees and just people that haven't worked a lot together was very huge on this bill.
Yeah,
And I know it's a small, simple little bill, but it accomplished a lot and it did a lot of neat things as far as what we did within this building.
Yeah.
So at some point in time, whoever reports that, I would like some of those words to be said.
okay,
No,
well, Senator Collmore and I can be cheerleaders.
Okay. Because I really do believe that we did well with it.
Yeah, I think you guys adding that Title VI stuff about that Agency of Ag statutes was really helpful and sort of set the bill up to to, make sense for, with both ANR and ag, and, helped the agency of ag to feel more at home with it too. So, great. Well, I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to be down here. You're pretty chill.
Your old committee
My old committee room.
from the first term. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we call that the Addison.
Do you sit there in the afternoons?
No, I switch with.
Just to get a different view.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you, Senator.
Nice to see
Thank
you
you for
all.
coming in.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
for the help on that bill.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, committee, as far as S-124, let's just kind of take this poll around. First of all, any discussion about that bill anymore that wants to be said about it?
I'm just, I'm not happy that it still puts, harder restriction on our car. That's what concerns me the most, but
Right.
all in all, a good bill. It's something we have to do. I just don't like some of the language that actually, I believe, adds more to it. Vermont Waters, clear water expert or water experts, them kind of things concern me with it.
I can, and maybe Senator Collmore might be able to tell a little bit more about this because he's been on this committee for a long time. And I'm not crowing about it, but it sounds like that I am. For a bill like this to come out of agriculture and go into natural resources and come back as whole as what it is, it's unheard of. And I'm hoping that well, we'll find out soon, won't we? Because we have some more probably stuff that's going to go on, but I'm hoping that it shows another level of cooperation that can be had within the building and these two committees, natural resources and agriculture, that have been at loggerheads a lot of times. And usually that's where Senate our agriculture bills went to die. And a lot of that stuff when it came to any type of clean water. So yes, so compromise. I knew when I was doing it, I had your voices in my head. Well, so I have not going to be happy about this, but yeah, I heard. I understand this.
This building is a building, hopefully compromise.
Right. Yeah, the Vermont water standard is more restrictive. So there's no doubt about that. But I don't think it would have passed EPA muster if we didn't include the waters of the United States.
I know it wasn't coming out of there without it. So
I knew the waters of the America had to stay, or the United States had to stay. That's 100% fine.
Yeah. And then,
The turmoil of that changes on almost a yearly basis now, it seems, but
right.
That's why I asked the question. Well, if they really push the subject, that hey, the law really is that the United States waterways, will that supersede? And that may be handled in court, not worry about it here.
well, it's one of those where the states can always add to what the federal requirements are. You just can't make it less restrictive. So I think either way, it would have been advisable to include both in that definition. And I think, as I say, I think the EPA is going to see that as a positive step. So
I guess.
So all good.
yes, drop all.
In the name of unity.
Vice Chair Major.
Yeah, name of unity.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So 5-0 straw poll vote. We'll get it back. We'll out of finance, hopefully unscathed. We should, and then we'll as you can see, it's going to get attached to another bill, or as we've been told, that's what's going to happen. And go from there. Okay, so we're going to spend tomorrow. We're going to spend some time with the Vermont Associations of Conservation Districts. There's been some emails that have gone out through as far as with that. Also, we should probably think about on Thursday, getting 118 back in here, and
Yeah, let's walk through that.
yeah, we need to walk through that. In fact, we should probably decide about what parts. Linda, I'm going to ask that you do for tomorrow, print off copies of S-118 for us, please, so we can kind of mark that up. Tomorrow's Wednesday.
Do you want Michael in?
Was he the one that did all that?
Yes.
Yes. So yes, if he could make it in for tomorrow, and then definitely if not tomorrow, Thursday. And, but tomorrow preferably if he could, and then that way maybe we could get some witnesses in on Friday or Thursday or Friday, depending on what Michael says, and we'll go down through and break this apart, see what parts that we want to grab out of that and go from there, or maybe he has a whole, but we'll see. There's a lot of moving parts in that bill.
Yeah.
That's as miscellaneous could be, so. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, any other things, before we adjourn? Everybody good?